offerings, this is just a recap, okay? There are various statements, also I got this from your pitch presentations. Various statements describing what EFE offers. From a donor's perspective, education for employment, from the school to the workplace, building futures and careers, creating job opportunities for the unemployed youth and development. So these are the messages that you have. Do I have everyone's attention or not yet? Not yet. So these are the messages you have out there that speak to donors. On the employer's perspective, talent at competitive cost and quality. We talked about this morning, we mentioned this. More retainable employees, we also mentioned that. Diversity, added value layers of visibility, association with popular social cause. We mentioned all of these this morning. We touched on all of these. But then again, this morning we segregated between SMEs, large enterprises, etc. You know, talking to HR, talking to CSR. Okay? Now, I have in here the 4 different, if you want, programs: the job training and placement, pathways to a job, entrepreneurship, and you also have innovative programs per country. But I would like to know from you which one we need to discuss one of these programs. So we need to discuss either job placement, either pathways to a job, or either entrepreneurship. Which one would you like us to discuss to identify whether the value proposition is visible for that, whether we have all the components, we're touching on all the components. Which one would you rather we discuss? We're going to discuss one just for the sake of time.
Job training and placement.
Yeah,
Job placement, the core one? Okay. So this is your job placement program, okay? We have youth in the Middle East and Africa is unemployed, okay? Can we identify where on this do you see the value proposition? First of all, where do you see the customer segment?
I see this as very youth targeted, so to me, that this is the customer segment here is youth.
The customer segment is the youth.
In the way this infographic is represented.
Okay. Does everyone agree to that?
Or it could be a donor.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, also a board member joined. He told me specifically because he saw these images looking at our website.
So what do you say?
So a board member.
Yeah.
Also be an audience.
Oh, a board member.
Or a prospect.
Okay. So it speaks to several customer segments. Okay. Where do you see the value proposition? What's the value proposition showing in here? This is let's do this as a group exercise. Why don't we take 5 minutes, look at this photo, look at this infographic, try to come up. What's the market segment? What's the value proposition that you have in there? There is a value proposition is visible for that. So if you're saying youth is the market segment for this infographic, look at if is the value proposition when a youth looks at it, are they seeing the value proposition? If that team wants to pick another type of market segment, then pick the value proposition for that.
I think this is more targeted to donors.
Yeah. So I am based upon that, see if we have the segments and the.
See, if you guys are confused about what's it targeting, how then the audience is not gonna know.
I think it's more donors on here.
I think general audience.
I mean,
Some are going to be
General audience donors.
I don't think this is
it's not supposed to. It's not supposed to.
process. I think this is about process.
So the answer is no.
I think this is-
SMEs and
I think this is donors, but I think it's
SMEs
a
as employer
process.
and large
I
companies
think
as
it's
employer.
too complicated.
How each one of them sees it.
But isn't this on your website?
I don't think that when I say general, I just think that like media, somebody who wants to be a friend. There's also people like thinking to be a fan who just say, "No, I can see it."
Yeah.
So that's very hard to generate.
But I think this answers that, I don't know us all, but the social responsibilities of the one. I don't know, I wonder whether this works
When
well.
somebody visits your website and they see this, okay?
So general audience.
This is what I'm, they visit your website and they see this.
Notices.
They go to your products, they want to see what are your products. Who are you speaking to in this specific instance?
You are using it.
You know?
Yeah, we are.
And they're gonna look at what value am I getting out of
It's
it?
very clear for everyone.
Because you say it's a process, yes, it's a process.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
was,
but, okay,
just to be very clear, this was never intended to be a value proposition presentation. This is essentially a graphical presentation of our essential mission and model
Okay,
for a general audience.
for general
Yeah.
audience.
So what do we want to do with this? So the answer is no, it's not a value proposition. So what's next?
Figure out what it is.
We want to turn it into a value proposition?
Yeah, exactly. This is the purpose of this whole exercise. Is like how do we reflect? I mean, the purpose of our engagement with you is to look at what you have already and to see where we can enhance. Okay?
Right. No, we clearly don't have a value proposition already, so that's what isn't that what we just spent the morning doing?
Yeah, but you
Starting
said
to-
you had a value proposition and then you wanted to refine it, you wanted to segregate it different segments, etc.
And we don't have a value, unless I'm missing something, I don't think we have a value proposition presentation. That's what we want to create.
Okay, so what you're saying is we don't need this exercise because you cannot.
This is not a value proposition. So you're
But
saying-
This was never intended to be a value proposition.
but can you make it as a value proposition? That's the idea.
That's the idea. It's how we can turn what you have today into some sort of a value proposition. This is also part of our engagement with you. It's how we're going to turn these
Right.
things into a value proposition.
Right, so that's what we just did.
So I think if I were trying to turn it into a value proposition, my first move would, and if this value proposition were for a company, my first move would be to not put youth in that left-hand side. It would be to be a company, is like, you know, whoever deals with their HR. You know, then they would be the person in need. Because we've identified, I guess, in that value proposition exercise, all the pain points.
Which would be at the end of the company. So the output would go to the companies.
But now, sorry, Carol, but this is to present one activity. So if you put the company, I mean, you're going to represent one customer segment, so you're going to leave out the donors and the students. So either we do it by product, by activity, by product, or by customer segment for the value proposition.
Wait, and should it be visual or text? Is another question.
Also,
Is value proposition best shown in a graphic or text or a combination? What's your recommendation? Because I haven't actually seen other NGOs kind of value proposition page.
Yeah.
So what does that typically look like, or what's the best way to do that?
Normally, it's a combination because some people are visual, like Marielle, they like to see infographics. Some people like to read more about it. It's a combination. But just to take a step back, the purpose of looking at this now, because you know, I visited your website, I visited your presentations, etc. Okay, and I was questioning, okay, what do people want? First of all, who do you want to attract? Sorry.
No, that's good.
Yeah, I know, just go back. So here, somebody comes to your website and say, okay, what do we do? And they look at all the different programs. Okay, where are you capturing? And you said we don't have the value proposition captured yet, right? This is your full programs, right? These are your full programs.
Great.
And what we do, it's an infographic,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then there's text to it, okay?
So we're talking about how the local websites are designed to be more targeted to the different segments of employers or students. Is that correct?
So these are the employers section.
You have chosen the the website.
So
It's a weakness.
I can point
And-
to something that, I guess all the context for this conversation from EFE's Global's perspective is that we plan to redo our website this year, we hope, if we can get the funding. I think the closest thing on our website right now that we would have to a value proposition would be the page that says, employ our youth. And that would be the one that we would hope any potential employers
Should we
would
look
pick
at
up.
that now?
Sorry, actually, yeah, when I visited the EFE global website, and this was another recommendation also we're gonna have, is you have different websites, and I understand that each country wants to have its own characteristic in there, but it's different messages across, you know.
I don't agree with having different websites.
Yeah, it
We
has
should
to
all have
have
one website with different
website.
countries.
Different
So,
different
When you have the
countries.
same website, Egypt, Morocco.
Get the results.
yeah, so they click on Egypt and Egypt has access to update their programs, their forms, their whatever.
It's not using you. It's not-
Yeah, but is it dynamic? No?
It's conceptually.
So I would love to have one website.
Because again, maintaining, and again, it's not a matter of the website. I'm not talking here just about the website, I'm talking about the messaging that you are delivering across this website. Your value proposition has to be delivered through presentations, through website, through face-to-face, even when you speak, and your value proposition has to be delivered. So
Right, no, I mean, this is a great point. We need to create a section on whatever the website is, whether it's the global or the affiliate, that clearly says value proposition employers. And then as we started to talk about value proposition to small employers, or however we want to
for an
market.
SME, if you're a large.
You're an SME, exactly. This is what
This
we
is
would
what you
provide.
want to
He's
see.
saying that people are taking this now as the value proposition. So because this is the main thing that's being shown, regardless of whether we're calling it the value proposition or not, people are reading this and taking from here, what is the value of EFE to me? Because I wonder too, because I see it more as our model, but it's often used in presentations and discussions and our
I've seen it in all the
intros with
presentations.
companies, donors, youth, as this is EFE.
But I thought, wait, hold on, I mean, this to me is just a very concise graphic description, infographic of our program, of what the activities. It's not meant to convey a value proposition. When we see this, actually, I've heard from several people, oh, now I get it, because sometimes we used to try to spend half an hour explaining all what we do. I thought the intention of this is just in one graphic, giving people an idea overall of what it is we do. It's not intended to then get into the other portions as the value proposition. Meaning this infographic, it's more like, after I see it, okay, I understand what EFE does. Because in the past, it's a mouthful to talk about all of our different programs in our track. So,
This is why it's under what we do now, not
Right.
under engagement.
Because we don't have a value proposition, but I think what happens is this becomes like the value proposition to them because we don't have it clearly defined.
You're saying the same thing. So
yeah.
Okay, we'll move on
You are
then.
saying.
We agree then that we're not going to dwell too much into this because then we're going to get to the same result, that we need a value proposition. This is what we're going to be working on. We'll come back to that. Okay. I'm going to move on then. Okay. To what distinguishes you? Because again, a value proposition needs to differentiate you from other players in the region, from the competition. Okay? So EFE, this is what I gathered at least, and correct me if I have the right points there. This is what I gathered from your presentations, from your website, etc. EFE is the distinctive combination of local leadership, global network leverage. And these are things you can include in your value proposition. We did not touch on this morning. We touched on specific things, job placement, skilled employees, etc. But this is a great value proposition. Local leadership, global network leverage.
But again, that's to a general audience. I mean, an SME doesn't care about that.
An SME cares if you're local. If you're local, close to them.
But I'm just reflecting back what I heard. I heard what the SMEs care about to a large degree is just that we're providing high quality, low cost
But
services.
Yeah, but Jamie, doesn't the SME care if they're working with a local partner, with a local firm, instead of having to work with a
Do you think it
global?
would
It's a
matter?
matter of cost. They don't care as long as their needs are being met.
Are you talking about only SMEs in Cairo?
Yes.
Or in Egypt? Or
Yeah, on my
is this
I
same
talk
everywhere?
about Egypt.
It's important,
So,
for us it's
I'm
important
not
to
saying this
highlight
is wrong. This is, I think, very clearly part of our value proposition to
The general.
global partners, sort of the general public, often
Media.
many of our donors, the media. But I wouldn't confuse this with the value proposition to our employers. Depending on the segment,
Mhm.
this would be more or less important, I would imagine, right? But people should push back.
But don't we need to have like a large, comprehensive value proposition for all of EFE? This is what EFE does. Again, part of what this program also is about is standardizing things across the network. Standardizing messages, processes, etc. So we start with a large value proposition that then we can take and tailor to the customer segments.
Yeah, and I think overall we're all in agreement with these. I mean,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong for your countries,
Yeah.
but this is our overall
Again, this is
message.
coming from your material, so.
Yeah, this I think we have hopefully down.
For us, for this second point, we have a hybrid model, but we put the highlights on this demand-driven model.
Yeah, the demand-driven model, I saw it in almost everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere this is a
Mhm.
demand-driven model. You have a hybrid model and someone else has a hybrid model, or not just you.
What is meant by a hybrid model?
Hybrid model is to train students, even though you don't have an employer, to get students ready
I
for.
think everybody
And then
would
you-
to some degree.
Our job market, we have a lot of students to.
And that's again a decision you need to also look at. Is this a sustainable way to do things? Do you want to continue on training students even though you don't have employers?
Hmm.
Can I ask you a question? If this is in fact our general one, what do you think of it? Is it compelling to you?
It touches, I like the first one, definitely, the local leadership, global network leverage. The demand-driven model, I don't know how much is it of a value proposition for the audience. They don't care if it's, for them, it's,
At least we can link, we can say that the youth we are helping or with whom we are working, we are preparing them for emerging sectors, for some sectors who need those guys or those youth. We are not helping people from any field, from any universities, from any vocational training centers.
Exactly.
We are preparing them for some needs already known, and we have already prepared the ground.
Yeah.
We know that we are preparing youth for tourism, for hospitality, for IT, for call centers, because there is a boom, there is an increase of those sectors.
let me ask you this, how are you preparing the youth for those? How are you getting that demand information? Are you just talking to employers or are you doing your own market research?
Combination.
Yeah, we have not the budget to do research because it's too costly. We have data from maybe some public agency, we have a commissariat au plan, statistic office, but also we have meetings with the employers, and we have some announcements from ministries to media, to newspapers and all those media.
Because does the employer always have the right statistics at hand? They're doing their own workforce planning. They might not have the right the global statistics at
If they
hand.
are SMEs, they have not the statistics.
We do a combination. We'll also
Yeah.
do research, external research on this.
And
I think demand-driven, by the way, I'm not sure everybody even knows what that necessarily means, because it could mean different things. So often I add market-relevant demand-driven, or business-focused, or business-relevant demand-driven, to make it clear that that's what
Yeah.
makes us distinctive.
Okay.
And I think it does make us, look, we just did a pretty serious benchmarking exercise with Accenture globally, and there literally are a handful of truly market-relevant, demand-driven youth employment models in the world. So I think it definitely makes us distinctive. Whether people care is another question.
What about saying something more, seems like it's very jargon, like, as you said, most people don't know what that means. What about we start with the employer?
Employer-driven.
employer-driven.
Sector.
I like that. I
Private
think something
sector.
that's talking about
Business-driven, employer-driven.
market employers on.
Can we put private sector instead of
Whatever,
employer?
yeah, I think
Because we can talk about
Why do you want to?
other players than the employer, maybe federation, maybe.
Employer is better than
Employer.
limited to private sector. You might work with others.
Why do you want to narrow it to private sector?
We can adapt for each.
Exactly, exactly.
No problem.
This will be like a
I got the message, and then we can
drill
adapt for
down.
each region.
Yeah.
Well, this also always depends on who we're talking to. So when we are addressing donors, if we're addressing a group of different stakeholders, we have to use demand driven. We can't specify it. But if we are addressing on a website employers, I definitely recommend to use employer driven.
But even the donors would like it if it's employer driven because they will know that you're spending their money wisely.
Yeah.
It adds, I think it adds value.
Not every donor has the same need. Sometimes they are interested in youth who are in universities, still studying. And the market needs them to go and volunteer and intern to fill their CV and gain some working experience before graduation.
I think, Ismail, what we're trying to get at here is the language that would basically cut across all audiences. Start there.
What I'm saying is...
So like if you describe us to your grandmother and she says, what's distinctive about EFE, what do you say?
I wouldn't describe it as a I would definitely say demand driven because it's the most generic.
And she would know what that meant?
For me,
And then,
For me,
no,
it's
but
market.
I always make the distinction between demand driven and supply driven and why our model works. I take pride actually in explaining this piece to donors, employers, and they all like, wow, and like it. Yeah, it's like part of educating.
You're not a headhunter.
Can we use the word of markets, maybe market driven? Markets.
Yeah.
Markets
Because you're not-
envelopes,
Yeah.
employers, private
Both
sectors.
on the table for now, and we
Can
can
put
always
Exactly.
work together.
Then this could be a little call to action. Definitely, it will be measuring success by job outcomes. Definitely, this is a value add because you're giving
But-
something that is.
Yes, but for the employer, what is the value added for the employer to know if we do a follow-up or not?
for the
It is,
employer,
because then
it
it's
is
not just, we're not training for the sake of training.
Exactly.
We have a
You're not
track record.
headhunting.
We are training
Counting.
for placement, yes, but after 6 months,
So
he doesn't care about if you are following up or not.
Why not? But you're behind. You stand behind your value and your quality. That they don't care about that.
See,
I think
if
that-
it's a me for us, no.
I think I have a different challenge with this point. If this is supposed to be at the most general level,
Yeah.
it's not relevant to a lot of the programs that we run. We
Right.
measure success by job outcomes.
I got this from your corporate presentation.
Of course, I'm not doubting that you got it from us.
Yeah, so-
This is a wonderful opportunity for us to rethink
Exactly,
what
to
we're
read
saying.
it,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know, is there a way for us?
The word job, what does it mean here?
No, I mean, this is capturing, again, this is specifically focused on our job placement training programs, right? It's not capturing the entrepreneurship or the university-based kind of career building.
It's
So
for
I
private
think-
sector.
Well, we're using it more general than
Yeah.
that though.
I got
But
it
you're right,
from
it's supposed to
the-
capture the core model.
Yeah, this
Because we're also saying we're distinctive. We're not distinctive through entrepreneurship. So I think you have to be really careful here. It's, part of it is, what's a general statement about how we're distinctive? And once we get people's interest, we can always talk about it. We also do entrepreneurship and we have pathways. And if we want to stand out in the crowd as
Economic
different,
outcome.
it could be tangible economic outcomes, which does leave out the huge, right? But still, that's kind of our essence. So job
I
does.
think that's exactly
A little
right.
bit narrow,
I don't think we leave that out because that is what makes us distinctive,
the job.
the job
Yeah.
outcomes.
I mean, that's how I start, and then we get to get people's attention, and it's distinctive, and then you get into nuances and talk about different types of
Agreed.
programs. But this is what makes us distinctive.
Economic outcome, but I mean, if when we set on our entrepreneurship, we're going to go towards micro-entrepreneurship, and we're gonna say, there has to be a tangible economic outcome, right?
Yeah,
So
that's-
Yeah,
that's,
but we're not measuring that yet, Colin, we can't say that yet.
that's our direction of what we're gonna do.
We're not measuring it yet. I don't want to say it until we're actually measuring and getting that data on the economic outcome. So for now, I would stick it to job outcomes. And I think Jasmine's exactly right. The follow-up is, on our entrepreneurship program, we also measure economic return trying to, we're starting to get data, and then when finding a job is a job, it's a pathway to a job where we're not holding ourselves accountable for the job outcome. But what truly makes us distinctive is that focus on job outcomes measurement.
And that is our core thing. We do focus on the measure that our success based on that.
What do other people think? Sarah?
I don't know, I said that the jobs here might mean, I don't know if it means also entrepreneurship, starting a business.
Yeah.
Generic